To do a couple of housekeeping items before we get rolling here. I'm going to share the agenda. Once I click on the right screen here. There we go. So we're here for probably the next just a little under 3 hours. What we do is very much the same format that we followed in years past, is break it into three broad sections. We're in the middle of the introductory piece now, which will proceed through a bit of a discussion of how to qualify for the grants. Once we get to the end of that section, we'll do a 10-minute break, followed by which we'll talk about the district project grants, the various incarnations of those. Another 10-minute break after that, and then we'll get into global grants reporting, the website. We'll try and arrange for the questions to be accumulated through the various sections. And just before we hit the two breaks that we've got, and just before the end of the session, we'll do a Q&A session. I want to remind people that today we're actually not in a Zoom meeting format. This is a Zoom webinar format, and we do this because the audience is just so large. This means that people cannot easily be promoted to speak, so we're going to rely on typed Q&A. If you raise your hand, there's probably not much I can do for you, so please don't do that. You'll find that the chat that you're normally used to is not available in a webinar type meeting. So we're going to use the Q&A, the question and answer functionality in the webinar format. So it's a little bit different than the standard meeting. So we've just heard from our District Governor Manon. I'd like to call on Barb Young to do the next little piece of this, and I'll just provide a little bit of an overview. Uh, Barb represents the District International Service Committee, the DISC, if I've got that correct. The DISC works very closely with our group, the Foundation Committee, to really try and ensure that projects are well structured to make it easy for the granting process to occur. So Barb and I are very much joined at the hip, in constant communication, and it's really part of a broader team that is there to help you. So Barb, I'll invite you to introduce your group.
Well, good morning. As Manon says, we have a lot of money. When I'm involved with people from other districts, they're absolutely amazed. We do so many more projects than they do as well. However, I know that some people are intimidated by the process. And the International Service Committee was set up actually to try and help people in our district not only become more involved in international, but to help with their grants. And our district is blessed to have quite a few people who are very good at that. So if I could have the next slide, please. The core group for this committee consists of four of us who work on trying to figure out what we're going to do to help people. Bill Skinner, Steve Gasser, Manon, and myself. And in addition to us, the next slide, please. We have a district resource network. These are people who have a lot of expertise in doing district grants, and they are here to help you. So as you listen this morning, if you think it's overpowering, don't worry, because all of these people are available and willing to help you with your district grant. And they have a certain number of expertises. They've worked in different areas, and we have indicated the areas that we have here in this slide. And this will be available to you later, as I believe this will be posted, the recording, on the district website. So next slide, please. Our role is to help members of clubs and districts by finding projects that they would like to work on if they don't know what they want to be involved in, and they have money and they want to get involved internationally, and maybe projects that others are working on that they can support. Also gain support as other types of support for their projects. Sharing best practices is very important also with the international work because there are problems people have run into. And if we can share that information, we can save people time moving forward. And to do that, we have regular online meetings of everybody who's interested. It's the International Interest Group. If you're receiving emails from us, you will get them on an ongoing basis. If you're not and you want to be, just let me know. And we also want to expand our network and partners beyond the district because there are others that can help us and work with us in other districts around the world. Next slide, please. So currently, uh, we have the district resource network set up in the last year and a half. We've been in communication with the district granting team, that's Craig's group, advocating for full disclosure on all the funds that are available because it's amazing what sources they come from. Holding online meetings several times a year, as I mentioned, maintaining an international page on the district website, and we have to thank Craig for setting that up for us. I'm also looking for somebody who will help us maintain it because that's not my greatest strength. But if you're interested, let me know. Encouraging small clubs to get involved. They don't need to have a lot of money. You can work together. And we're open to suggestions on other things that we can do. And I think that's it, Craig. You
Okay.
can see what have I got next one? Have I got another
Yeah,
slide?
the next slide you have is, in fact, the questions slide.
And we
Yeah.
won't have questions on open as a result of the format here, but if anybody wants to type something into their questions, we'll
Yeah.
certainly take a look at it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thanks very much, Barb. There are a few things coming in from the Q&A session, which I will answer right now. So the first question is whether or not a hard copy of this presentation will be available after the webinar. The answer to that is yes. As we get a little further into it, I will tell you about the site page that the Foundation Committee has on the district website. I've tried to make that a go-to place for all resources that are relevant, and I will continue to try to direct people back to that. And I'll say that the PowerPoint presentation, as well as recordings of the webinar itself, will be made available through links on the district grants webpage. So I'd like to kind of get into this a little bit now by talking about qualification to receive district grants. This part of the presentation doesn't really change a lot from year to year, so hopefully some of this is familiar to a good number of you. First point that I do want to make, though, is the dates can get a little bit confusing. So we're currently in the 2025-2026 Rotary year, which means this is the planning year for projects that can actually get underway in the 26-27 Rotary year. So as we get into July of next year, that's really the project year for the things that we're applying for in this year. But things can actually get a little bit tricky beyond that, and particularly with some of the youth and scholarship programs. One of our key rules that I'll mention a couple of times here is that monies cannot be committed before the grant is approved. And a number of the youth-based activities actually require payment kind of upfront, in some cases up to a year. This could mean that some of the projects that we're actually looking and starting to think about applying for funding for now may not actually happen until 2027. So it's a long, long cycle. And it's also important to remember that once you get a grant, you've actually got a 2 full years to execute and complete the project. So we are talking about a bit of an extended time frame here for some of these activities. In order to qualify for district grants, and that's the key word here is qualification. Clubs have to do a couple of things. in order to receive what we call district designated funds or DDF. These are funds from the Rotary Foundation that the district has discretion over how they're spent. And these funds are primarily used to fund district projects of various kinds, and we'll get into that, as well as add funding to various global grants. So some of the things that you do need to do in order to receive these funds uh, circle around or are really based around this notion of a memorandum of understanding or an MOU. And just to sort of provide a sense of it, it's really almost like a chain of custody, if you want to think of it that way. So the district will sign a memorandum of understanding with the Rotary Foundation. So that binds the district to the TRF rules. And these are intended to ensure that the grant monies are being stewarded and managed appropriately. It ensures the proper governance for the grants. And the MOU is actually one per club, which would cover off on both the district project grants that you may apply for and the DDF or global grants that you may apply for. Clubs, including Rotaract clubs, which are eligible, will execute an MOU with the district. So you can kind of see the chain here. So the club will execute an MOU with the district, which will ensure that the clubs are adhering to the rules that the district is committed to when it has bound itself with its or our MOU to TRF. So the MOU is a very important piece of the qualification process. Another important piece of it is the attendance at this presentation here today. So clubs that have are participated here today, congratulations, you've already taken your first step towards becoming qualified to receive a district or a global grant in the 26-27 Rotary year. The other thing that you will be required to do is report appropriately on the use of grant funds, and there'll be more on that later. So before I get too far into it, I kind of want to just touch base a little bit on the things that are new going into the 26-27 Rotary year. There's really not much in terms of the granting and the rules and conditions around those. But we are going to make a couple of changes in the way that we administer the grants on our district grants website. So the way I thought I would phrase it is that everyone applying for grants must be aware of the material that's presented in today's grants qualification seminar. So I know that there are people here who will ultimately be wanting to apply for grants that aren't here today. Not to worry, the session will be recorded, the slide deck will be available, and as people are added into the system, we're going to ask them to review these materials before we get rolling on the grants. The reason for this happens every year, but I've seen a lot more of it this year than in years past, is that come January or February, people find out, hey, I've been appointed to be the one to apply for a grant. They were completely unaware that this seminar had taken place in the past. And I hear stories of people losing sleep over what to do next. So that's why we're going to really highlight the material that's presented here today. What this means practically is now we've been using our website for the last couple of years, and users have been piling up in the system. So after today's session, anybody who's currently in the system is going to be expired. And then in order to get back into the system again, we're going to have to double check that you've actually received and reviewed the materials in this grant seminar. So the way we say that is that users must be trained annually to access the district grants website. This may sound a bit onerous, but I'm really hoping this helps you by putting the information that you really need back in front of you. I will say at the very least, everybody here today, and I'm just looking at the numbers, there appear to be about 115 of us, will automatically be added to the grants module over the next couple of days. So anybody here today will already be in the system, and anybody who comes along a little bit later can be added to the system after they've had a chance to review the materials here today. The second thing that we're going to look at this year is we're going to be more insistent about the financial management plan. This is not new. This is something that's been around as a requirement for a long, long time. But we're going to insist on you having the financial plan management plan before funds are advanced going into the next year. This is not onerous. There will be templates for a financial management plan available on the website that you can basically use and execute and sign off on. What we're really looking for, as much as anything, is record keeping. Because what happens with clubs is their boards change over on an annual basis. And typically, the projects that we are supporting outlast any one board. So, what we're really looking for here is the ability to have your grants documentation stored in a place where your future boards can find it, so we have a better chain of continuity as we move from year to year in the granting. The final thing that's new for this year, this has been around for a while, but we're really going to play this one up. We've got a new email for all district grants matters, and this is grants@rotary5360.ca. So that old help desk and emailing Craig directly, we're going to try and move towards this branded email for all communication on grants related matters. Just going to walk through the timeline a little bit. This has not changed appreciably, but I will go through it. So this is, as I say, kind of the opening date for the grants cycle for the next year. So the grants management seminar is kind of the kickoff to the next year. Application deadline for all types of grants will be March 15th, 2026. A lot of clubs will leave a lot of this to very close to the deadline. The system is available, and I encourage people to get working on your grant applications early. And the earlier you work on them, the more time we have available to help you put your grants applications together. But the deadline is a March 15th deadline, same as it was last year. In terms of our district block grant, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that actually means a little bit later, but in effect, a grouping of projects of the smaller scale get bundled together in what's called the block grant, and they move forward as a group. They need to be approved by the district board before we can transmit them on to TRF. That typically happens around the middle of April. It'll just be when the district board meeting for April takes place. We then will, once we have our board approval, submit our block grant on to TRF. We will do this hopefully in mid-late April or May, and hopefully hear back a positive result on the block grant in June. I've made this promise last couple of years, haven't managed to achieve it yet, but we're continuing to work on accelerating things. This past year, the block grant was approved in September. That really took a long time. We're going to try and push to get that block grant approved as early as we can in the Rotary year. As soon as we hear back from the Rotary Foundation that the block grant has been approved, and again, here we're talking district grants, I will send out notification to the proponents of the various projects that they can begin making commitments on behalf of those projects. You can begin executing on the work. Anything that is executed prior to you hearing from us that the block grant has been approved will be disallowed as an expense. So it's really important that you wait until you get the official confirmation that your projects can proceed. Hopefully, and again, this one is a bit optimistic, but we're going to try to get the payments made to clubs as early in the year as we can. A lot of the hangups and delays in terms of payments to the clubs really take place once all of the outstanding reporting commitments are complete. This year, we're almost towards the latter half of October. We have not yet been paid the district block grant for this year, but I expect that is imminent. Any minute now, we should be receiving notification that our current grant is paid. In an ideal world for next year, we're going to try and make it as early as we possibly can. And I think I covered most of this already. Yes, I have. Okay, Manal touched on it a little bit in her DG remarks. I want to share a little bit around what the district designated funds available for 26-27 may look like. I have not got the official number for 26-27 yet, so I'm calling this one an estimate based on what we had last year, which was I think around 460-ish. Um, I saw a comment from Dan Doherty in here. It just talks about the per capita giving in the district, and I think his comment is spot on. As individuals, we really uh, don't contribute a lot to the Rotary Foundation, and the result of this is that the amount of DDF available has actually been declining in past years. I've got the numbers in front of me here for 23, 24. It was almost 500,000. For 2024, 2025, it was 485. For 26, 27, it was the 460. And for this year, I'm thinking that we might be looking at about $430,000. There's a carryover potentially available as well from prior Rotary years. I've actually marked that as a question mark. There is a little bit of carryover still available, but also grants are continuing to be applied for. So we don't know exactly when we'll have seen our last grant application for the current year, but anything that is not spent in this year does get carried over into the next year as well. So things are potentially, looking maybe 430 plus an additional amount will give us the total amount of grants for next year. The way that gets allocated, though, is that half of it goes to the district project grants. We're setting aside some money for a global peace scholarship. And in years past, we've set aside funds for a peace center contribution, and we're not necessarily looking at that for this year to try and maximize the amount that we can put into our global grant projects. One thing I'll mention here just before I move on to the next slide is that when you're dealing with the Rotary Foundation, all dollar amounts are actually uh, in US funds. So when we talk about the global grants, we talk about the size of the block grant, those are all in US dollars. When we start talking about the district project grants, we actually denominate those in Canadian dollars. So what I've said here in this one is that if we're looking at roughly $430,000 US for the total amount of DDF available, that could translate into about $290,000 for district project grants. We allocate some for contingency. We allocate a block for district travel grants, and Andrew will be talking a little bit about those later, and a bit for administration. So we think our best guess is the total DDF available for our district projects, which include the community development, the district vocational training teams, undergraduate scholarships, and youth programs, looks like about $236,000 Canadian. So that's the DDF picture as we know it today. One thing I will just mention, I just had this thought as I was chatting here, and it kind of goes back to comment that Barb made in her part of the presentation around working to ensure transparency. The thought I just had is that on our district website, I'll actually place the dollar amount of the available DDF as we know it at any point in time so that people will be able to look that up. So I'm just going to mention that as something that we can undertake to do in the upcoming days. So, qualification, we talked a little bit about that so far. I just want to dive into the MOU just a little bit more here. And note that when you sign your MOU, your club MOU with the District 5360, you're also you are taking on the commitments that we have made to the Rotary Foundation, one of which is having that written financial management plan to provide consistent stewardship of grant funds. So again, it's something that has been around for a long time, but we're really going to become more insistent on it going into this year. And the main thing that the financial management plan tells us is that the records of the projects that you undertake have to be stored in a secure location that can be accessed by the club's current board of directors in any given year. So the year that you're potentially wrapping up the project may not have the same board as it was when in fact, it won't have the same board as was in place when the project was started. The club will have to be able to confirm, who is responsible for keeping the records, where this information is maintained, and for our projects, we do require that the documentation be retained for 5 years, and how an upcoming board will be made aware of where this information is. It's important that we do this, and the reason that we're insisting on this is because failure to do so can be causing the club to be required to turn funds, and it also puts all of the funds associated with the other clubs in the district at risk as well. So in effect, anybody who's working on district projects is really part of a large chain that has to make sure that the record keeping is kept for the benefit of all the clubs in the district. Okay, this is my first hint to you that there is a district web page for the grants committee. It really should be your go-to location for all matters related to the grants, including the download of the appropriate memorandum of understanding template. I will put the financial management template up there as well. And there's also something called the project approval form that we'll get into a little bit later. Those are kind of the three main things that we're looking for in our projects, and we want to make them as easy as possible for you to find. So just want to talk a little bit about how funds get approved for distribution to the clubs. It really happens in two stages. So when the project is approved, so the project goes into the block grant gets approved, uh, we will send you the notification that you can begin working on the project. So that's kind of step one. A little bit later, funds will be released to your club, and that's kind of step two. So step one can proceed first, and step two to follow. But each of those has a bit of a gate to it to ensure that you trigger either the approval or the disbursements of the funds appropriately. So in terms of the projects and applying for the projects, the first bit is really important is all our projects do require clear evidence of the active participation and Rotarians in the project. So it's basically not enough to just go out and buy stuff. This is actually intended to promote the active participation of Rotarians in the projects that you work on. So that's the first one. The second one, and probably the most important of them all, I've kind of hinted at it already, is that monies cannot be committed before the grant is formally approved. Anything that's committed before the approval of the grant will be disallowed and will be taken back. Next significant rule is that grants can't be used to make unrestricted cash donations to beneficiaries or cooperating organizations, nor can they fund operating, administrative, or indirect expenses of another organization. So we're talking about projects actually doing things that involve Rotarians. And along with that, the individual items can be purchased for use on the projects. Some projects definitely require a training component as well, and we'll mention that a little bit later too. There are so these are the kind of the most important ones. The others are all defined in both the district foundation grant terms and conditions and the TRF terms and conditions. Always encourage you to make yourself aware of those before embarking on a project application. And you can always get the latest and greatest versions of these terms and conditions on both the Rotary.org website and on the district website's page. So that's kind of the first step of it, applying for and being eligible to actually do things with grant funding. There's another piece of it as well to actually receive the funds that you've been approved to spend. Couple of things here. So first is your club has to make a US dollar per capita commitment to the TRF annual fund. If you're just applying for a global grant without looking for any additional district uplift through district DDF, this is not strictly necessary. But I do go through and make sure that I've seen what the per capita giving looks like for all of the clubs before we release funds. Most important thing of all here is that the club is up to date on all required reporting for past grants. So you can't receive your funding for your new grant if you've got anything outstanding from a previous grant. That the club financial management plan is in place. I've talked about that a bit. And that your president-elect attends the training seminar. I can see we've got the old name of the district learning on the slide here, which I'll update. We know that this club leadership training is potentially it takes place in the calendar year a little bit after our project deadline. So non-attendance at the training session doesn't prevent you from necessarily applying for a grant, but it will stand in the way of you actually being able to receive grant funding. That's kind of the end of the qualification piece. I'm just looking for my next speaker who I haven't seen here yet. Okay, so Jose, I don't see Jose on the line here, so I'll just talk a little bit about the Peace Fellowship. This is one of the global scholarship pieces. Uh, it's actually a flagship program of Rotary International, and something that we've participated in to an extent over past years. But what it is, it's a fully funded master's degree academic fellowship at one of the institutions globally that has been designated as a peace center for studies in the 27-28 year. You'll see that there are a number of universities that offer, in effect, a 2 years master's degree. There's also a 1 year certificate program available as well from two institutions, one in Uganda, one in Turkey. These programs are not intended for people just out of school, as it were. So the successful candidates for a Global Peace Fellowship will typically have a number of years of experience already in a peace related field and will, in fact, um, uh, be already emerging as leaders in a peace-related field. It's important to note that there are some people who are ineligible to apply, which would typically be Rotarians themselves, their spouses, and nearest relatives, as well as anybody who is employed by Rotary. Just touched a little bit on it. There are kind of two sessions here, two sections to it. There's a 2 year program and a 1 year certificate. Typically, the Rotary Peace Scholars will work across a wide variety of fields, many of them working with NGOs and working with other organizations furthering peace, which is something we seem to need now more than we've ever needed before. The application process, there is an application portal on the RI website for this particular programming. Application for the program occurs in a window between February and May 15th of 2026. You'll see on the slide the actual link to find the Peace Fellowship portal. The applications go through a rigorous screening process that uh, ensures that we really pick the highest quality candidates for them. This is a program that's really run directly with TRF funds themselves, so there are no cost obligations for participating in this program incurred by either the district or any clubs in the district. And I'll just draw your attention to the team that is looking after these. Jose has very graciously stepped in to become the new lead of the Peace Fellowship team. And you'll see that there are a couple of other people as well who work locally to help find and prepare candidates to make their applications for the Rotary Peace Fellowship. So that's one of a significant number, one of two very, very significant flagship, if you will, programs that Rotary offers. The other is the Global Scholarship Grant, and I do see that the chief champion for the Global Scholarship Grants is here today. So I'm going to turn over to Hendrik Craig to tell us a little bit about the Global Scholarship Grants. Hendrik.
Yes, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Craig. Yes, so global grant scholarships are, or some of the global scholarship grants, it's a different kind of program. It is also a scholarship, but it should not be confused with a Peace Fellowship because the global grant scholarship is very different types of people we're looking for. And it's also something that's run much more closely, narrowly, specifically in the district. So if I could get the next slide there, I'll try to describe what a global grant scholarship is. And so basically, a Global Grant Scholarship is a scholarship that funds 1 year of graduate study outside of Canada by people from this district in sort of any kind of program, whether it's a master's at various types or a year of a doctoral program in one of the Rotary Foundation's areas of focus. So the scope is way broader than the Peace Fellowship, which is focused on peace and conflict resolution. You can also have Global Grant Scholarships for peace, not again to be confused with the Peace Fellowship. And then the other 6 areas of focus, and I won't try to read them all out here. It is, of course, handy to have them because I can never remember them all off the top of my head. And so anything that can be fit. So there's quite a broad scope of what is possible to what kind of programs are possible to fund through a global grant scholarship. If we move to the next slide, there's a couple of things about this scholarship that are quite precise and clear here, in that it is valued at $30,000, and that's basically the district designated funds allocated. And this year we're getting an allocation of one scholarship, plus the match then gets to the $30,000. So it's funded by DDF and the World Fund match. It's not any cost to the clubs, although within Rotary rules, theoretically, a club could do a scholarship if they felt it was appropriate to attempt to apply for it and raise the funds for that. We do the selection here in the district. And so we have a number of criteria that we've established in the district, that we have a preference for somebody starting a new program of study, which is largely because that type of individual is more likely to be someone who is actually here and can be kind of mentored and brought in a little bit into into Rotary as they're preparing for their term as a Rotary scholar. We require that they be a student from this district, and we're a little bit flexible on this. There's a lot of people who have received scholarships over the years from this district, but have already started studies or other work outside of this district. And like the Peace Fellowship, Rotarians and their spouses and descendants and ancestors are ineligible. So this is something that Rotary is really doing to support not sort of our families, but other people, and in the hope, of course, that we'll maybe bringing them into Rotary at some point. We can move to the next slide. The application process is an annual cycle that's been pretty much exactly the same for the last dozen or more years. In the district, in the fall and early winter, we're trying to, clubs and districts, identify candidates. We do have an application deadline. This, like the Peace Fellowship, is something that individuals off the street, so to speak, can apply to. The application form and more information is on the district website, our page on global scholarship funding. So the application goes in. It's a relatively straightforward written application, and then it comes to the scholarship team for first evaluation of the written applications, then an interview, and then a recommendation for whom we would like to nominate to the Rotary Foundation for the scholarship. And at that point, we enter into the long process of applying for a global grant in order to fund this scholarship. And that involves all of the same steps that we'll be hearing about much more in terms of applying for global grants. So we're seeking international partner in somewhere where in the district close to where the student is studying. We do the global grant application on the student's behalf. And then if everything goes well, we get the funding approved in time to support their scholarship, support their studies through their payment of tuition or a stipend or various other eligible expenses with the studies starting in the fall. So that's the basic process. If I can get the next slide, please. From this, so the more information, again, we do have it on rotary5360.ca, and then you have to go through the service grants, and then we have a global scholarship funding page, which is quite a nice page. I'm kind of very flattered that I got some compliments from it about it at the district, at the international convention, because of the way that we have actually been able to now keep information and pictures and little bios of the last 20 odd people who have received this scholarship since well, since early last decade when I started this. So you can get a sense of the kinds of people we're looking for, and many of them are indeed recent graduates. Others have had some years of work experience and are wanting to shift their careers a little bit. So the next slide, please. Just to signal here briefly, since we can now kind of officially talk about all of them, and it has taken a long time this year to get all of the scholarships fully in place and paid out, but that actually all happened. The last one came through and was sorted out this week. So this year, this current Rotary year, we have actually pleased to have three global scholars, an unusual situation in the district. Noam Anglo is studying at the University of California, Berkeley, in doing a Master's of Development Engineering, which is at first we have somebody in that field from this district. Maya Povey, whom many of you know because of her various activities in youth programs from Rotary in the district and with Rotary International, is at Harvard doing a master's in education. And our third recipient, Bethel Abraham, is finishing the second year of her master's in public health and global health at New York University. So really proud of these scholars this year, and hopefully we'll be getting news from them soon to be putting into the district newsletter as they report on their activities. And if you're at all interested in getting one of them to speak to your club remotely, then they would be happy to do so. So just reach out to me, and I can make that type of connection. We certainly would like to promote as much as possible the Global Grant Scholarships, because it is indeed a very substantial financial commitment from the district to support this Rotary program. And the last slide, parallel to the slide about the Peace Fellowship, just signaling those who were served on the committee this year and helped. So this past calendar year, that is, the previous Rotary year, when we did actually the selection for this year. And I won't read the names here. You can see those. Thank you to all of those who participated in the interview. And I would just like to ask if you're at all interested in this, let me know. We're always looking for a few more people on this committee to make sure that we have a substantial interview panel of people available for the interviews in February. And that is basically it. So I will turn it back over to Craig